everybody. I'm Patti Oskvarek, and I also have Veronica Roberts here. And welcome to Inspiring Conversations with Coaches Patti Oskvarek and Veronica Roberts.
Yeah.
Today, Veronica and I are going to be sharing about forgiveness and how to cultivate compassion. And I'm Patti Oskvarek. I'm Coaching for Inspiration with Patti, a work-life balance coach and Reiki master, blogger, and podcaster. I help managers and supervisors and others to become better leaders and live a more purposeful, balanced life outside of work.
Thank you, Patti. So I'm Veronica Roberts. I'm a well-being and money coach. And I'm all about helping people to live a more fulfilling life, to sort of stop the hustle, stop the humdrum, and absolutely dive into having, their best life possible. So I'm delighted to be here. You can find me with Uplift Your Life with Veronica and on Facebook as well.
So we thought we would start out a little bit about our personal journey with forgiveness. So I'm going to tell you a little bit. I'll start first, if that's okay with you, Veronica.
Absolutely, yeah.
My forgiveness story. This is pretty personal, but I'm going to share it because I think it will help a lot of people with their journey with true forgiveness and letting go, and how it feels to forgive and let it go, and how not to feel or harbor that hurt and sorrow. So my journey is my mother-in-law. We didn't have the best relationship, and it affected so many parts of my life. It affected my marriage. It affected my children. It affected me in so many different ways. And what I mean by it made me resentful and hurtful because of the fact that my mother-in-law and I didn't get along. And what I mean by that, it hurt my husband because he was in the middle.
Oh, gosh,
and
yeah.
it's really hard because he loved his mom. She passed last year, and also it affected my children because they didn't see a very good relationship between me and my mother-in-law. And she harbored resentment against me, and I harbored resentment against her. And it caused a lot of problems during the holidays, birthdays, throughout our whole marriage. There was a time where I was ready to leave my husband. We actually did kind of separate for a little while. Wasn't very long, but he went to where she lived and stayed with her for a little while. It wasn't a long period of time, but it's hard when you love two people that don't have a very good relationship. So my mother-in-law had cancer, and that was also, she had it for a long time. She had a blood cancer. And so, she went through a lot of different kinds of therapy for that weekly. And towards the end, she had a stroke. And my husband and I and my brother-in-law took care of her at the end. And so you had to let go of all that BS and move on. And I realized that life's too short to hold grudges or to take things so personally. And that was part of the problem. I took a lot of things personally when I probably shouldn't have, because, you know, people are going to say what they're going to say. People are going to gossip. People are going to say hurtful things. People are going to judge you for things that you do. And you can't control them. You know the truth. You know you're a good person. And you have to realize that you don't need to care what other people think or what other people say. And the only person that you're hurting is yourself. And of course, the people that you love that are in the middle of the crossfire.
Gosh, yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
how did I let go? I think towards the end, I knew that we're people, and this was a life lesson for me of relationships. And that this was a hard relationship for me, but it taught me a lot. And it taught me how to forgive and let go. And to love somebody that never would say sorry for what they said, for their actions, and to be okay with that. And for them to feel like they didn't do anything wrong. And to accept that. And that's one of the hardest things, is to not expect an apology from somebody that can't give it. And I noticed my husband's the same way. It's in their family. They don't apologize for things.
Wow.
And I realized, why doesn't my husband ever apologize? Well, if you don't have that as a role model, you're not going to do it. Right?
Wow.
So I had to do a lot of soul searching and learn what true forgiveness is. It's not harboring something that you want that you can't have. And all I wanted was an apology. And I learned that I didn't get it, and I won't ever get it, and it's okay. And I don't want that cycle to continue in my family of unforgiveness. And in my family, that is something, there was no forgiveness. You know, if somebody hurt you, you cut them off, you know. And I think that was part of why I couldn't forgive, because my role models was, if somebody hurts you and repeatedly hurts you, you don't forgive them, you know. So I've learned that I have to change these ancestry situations and not let them continue. But unfortunately, it took me 30 years to figure this out. But I feel like a big weight has been lifted off of me. And because I've forgiven. Forgiveness may be different to other people, but for me, I was harboring a lot of resentment, and it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my soul. It wasn't good for my family. And letting it go has been the best thing I've ever done. Still hurts a little talking about it, but it was a life lesson that I needed to learn to be a better person. So that's my story of forgiveness.
Wow. You know, I think, Patti, I hadn't heard that until now, and I just thank you for being so courageous and sharing this with people. It is incredibly valuable, so that people don't feel alone and have some idea, one, about the length sometimes it takes to forgive, and also about, you know, the wisdom that you have gained from this, that acceptance that you can't have a sorry. My God, this is massive. This is massive. And yeah, I can feel feel it, with you. It is a massive life lesson, but I'm delighted that people like your good self that are being the example of the change. Yeah, that's amazing. Gosh, this is going to be an emotional one. And, when we are looking at this topic of forgiveness, we both together realize how such a big topic it is, because there's so many angles, so many nuances, and a lot of high emotion in there, isn't it? So I think that's where there is quite a lot of difficulty in and around forgiveness. And I am absolutely delighted that we're bringing this to you in the best way that we can, the best way that we can show up for you, and really hope this is something that's going to help you, yourselves in with whatever you're going through as well. So, Patti, I really, really thank you for sharing that. And as I say, the courageousness of being vulnerable. I know, how uncomfortable that can be, but oh my goodness, well done, well done.
Especially when you're talking about something that is hurtful to the whole family.
Yeah.
And the whole dynamics of the family, and how you wished you did things differently, but I can't change what happened. I can't change how I felt, but I can change how I feel now. And hopefully my children will learn from my experience and take away this experience and learn you can't take everything so personally.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure that they will, because I see these qualities that you're readily sharing and living and embodying. So I believe that it's impossible for them not to learn from yourself. And I think, touching on the point that you said of not taking things personally, and yes, I absolutely agree with that. And however, on the same token, that I would say is your feelings, emotions, thoughts are still as important as anybody else's. And I think sometimes that's a difficulty with it, isn't it? Of you taking the highest stance of stepping into that forgiveness, because nobody's more valuable or more important than anybody else. It is absolutely a level place. And that's why sometimes forgiveness takes so long, is because we are actually honoring our emotions and our feelings, our thoughts, our actions, and it needs processing to know that we haven't done anything wrong. And it's not about taking sides, I'm right, they're wrong, and that type of thing, which is difficult, because that is what's portrayed in society, is like there's a good guy and there's a bad guy. It's really cut down the middle. Whose side we're on and everything like that. That's not true life.
Right.
And yeah, all the interwoven feelings and emotions with the family, and your husband as well. Wow, yeah, there's so much to cover in there. So yeah, lovely. So what else do you want to cover on forgiveness as well, Patti?
I think once you come to the point of letting go and being able to process all of your emotions and realizing that it's not worth harboring that resentment, and letting go helps you inside. Because when you're harboring all that resentment, you're a person that you don't like. And it's about self-love. And also loving a person and forgiving that person for things that maybe they didn't even realize they were hurting you.
Yeah. And
But
they have that.
yeah,
I'm
and the most important thing is when after you've let go, you can look back and realize, oh, you know, I could have handled this a little differently. You know, it takes two people to make a relationship or break a relationship, or one person to make a relationship and break the relationship. You have to want to have the relationship, and you don't have to have the relationship, but you can forgive and let go of the hurt inside, if and realize that you may never get an apology, or you may never apologize to that person either. But to just be able to accept what happened and not beat yourself up continuously about it, and be able to live a more purposeful, balanced, healthy life by letting go of that situation that happened, and just realize, okay, if I get into another situation like this again, how am I going to handle it differently? And how am I going to be a better person next time?
Yeah, yeah, those are lovely questions that help you to move forward, isn't it? And
Yes.
that's what you're saying that you wish to do, is not hold on to this and to make your life lighter. And then by moving on and not get stuck in that, and by asking those questions, then that is also supporting that, embodying that you're doing. That is the example for your children. I think a really lovely big piece of what you've just said is that about building relationships, you know, and how it's two people, it's not just one. And yeah, how important that is, and taking that in as a factor of there's, you know, part I'm playing and there's a part the other person is playing. And yeah, so that's such because it's too easy just to be, you know, I can be in my little castle, you know, and you're like, oh well, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely a relationship. And I wanted to just add in there as well about what I think forgiveness is about. Um, and it's definitely about cultivating compassion for ourselves, isn't it? About that being good to ourselves, not beating ourselves up, and, you know, in hindsight, we can know how to act better. But when we're there in the moment, it's, you know, we're being a human person with, you know, all these tensions that are running in there. So forgiveness for me is about me taking responsibility for my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts, and my actions. And being compassionate at the same time. It's claiming responsibility for myself with compassion. So yeah, what's your thoughts on that, Patti?
Oh, I agree. Everything that you said. Being compassionate towards yourself for the mistakes that you've made, being compassionate to the other person, realizing, you know, we're all doing the best that we can do in this life. we don't have we don't have a playbook, right?
No.
And we take those life lessons and we either learn from them or we repeat them. And through self-reflection and through realizing, okay, I can do better next time, and I'm going to do better next time. And I'm glad I had this lesson in my life because it's made me a better person.
That's beautiful. And I think it's like, that expression, hurt people hurt, isn't it? So,
Yes.
obviously that I would suggest that's probably where it was coming from, or within your, mother-in-law. And then I can sometimes get caught up in that loop because I'm a human being and I'm being hurt. And then
Yeah.
that's where I need the compassion, is like, oh, okay, I didn't do it right. So yeah. I think another thing that when I, talked about what I believe is forgiveness, some of the other elements that what forgiveness isn't, it's not about being sort of like caught up in drama and being stuck in the drama side of things, isn't it? It's about, as I said, responsibility and me owning my side of things and not going to this default as a good one and as a bad one,
Right.
So yeah, so
Taking responsibility.
mhm,
Yes.
yeah, really, yeah, absolutely. There, I made a couple of notes as there. I think as well, forgiveness isn't about necessarily letting the other person off the hook, because that has been hurt and damaged, and there is like family repercussions of that. So it isn't about letting the other person off the hook. When you're choosing forgiveness, it's not like, okay, I'm the good guy, I've done this, and um, yeah, it's not about that. It is about this willingness to move on, this willingness to decide for myself. I want better. I want to be a better example. I want to, and do all of those things, but also, again, validating my feelings and my experiences. And, I feel comfortable at this stage in my life to actually, express that to the other person, not in a way to get back at them, but to help them to see that there has been damage done, if that is possible, because of course some people don't actually want to hear that or will absolutely brush it off, as you said. um, there's some people haven't learned how to say sorry, or it's just not in their manual at all, is it? Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, because you have two different people with two different backgrounds, and you're becoming a family unit, and you've both experienced different family dynamics, and then you're trying to navigate with what you know with your experiences, and
yes,
they tend to think, oh, they should be like me, but they're not. Right.
I know. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, oh, I've got really good values, so what's going on with you? and that's
Vice
not real.
versa.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. 100%. So I wanted to share my sort of kind of like forgiveness story, the one that has taken me a number of years also to give, if that's okay with you, and
Yes.
yeah, and your viewers. So my forgiveness journey really started at a very young age, or my unfortunately my father died when I was 8, and I was like, oh my gosh, it really put our family in a very difficult position, and we did experience quite a lot of poverty and a lot of struggle. And sort of like we really had to, we was just my mum, my brother and myself, so we really had to kind of like huddle together and get through it. And then when you get into debt, it takes ages if you don't have the skills or the possibilities. Debt takes ages. So I actually harbored a lot of resentment because obviously, as a small family unit, we're working together. I couldn't blame my mum. It's not my mum's fault, but it was my dad's fault. And of course that, you can't have that conversations back and forth because my father had died. So I was kind of like, it was just festering in with me. And, it happened so young, so life carried on. But then every now and again, sort of like when I got to 18 and all my college friends were having big family celebrations. Oh, 18 is this special number where you're becoming an adult and stuff like that. And, even at that stage, we couldn't afford to have those big parties at a beautiful little family celebration, which was amazing. But I couldn't have this big family thing. And, my father wasn't even around to see that I was an adult. So I, kind of like felt cheated. So that added to the resentment. And then, and the same sort of like thing popped up again when I was 21 and then when I was getting married. And it was amazing service. So my brother gave me away. So I didn't really miss out. But, when you kind of like comparing yourself to other people, that was what was not helpful to me as well, is that comparison thing. So, it took me a long, long time to get over the bitterness and the resentment and the, frustration of having to almost like work twice as hard, it felt, than anybody else of my age type of thing. And, but really, chatting with my brother about it, and he helped me to see really I was just hurting myself. So every time that a situation would come up, I was going back to the old story. Well, it shouldn't have happened to me. That's not fair. Life's not fair. Life's too hard. All of that. But really, I was just focusing on all of the negative and all of the, sort of like one-sidedness of myself, because obviously he probably didn't want to pass at that time either, so it's just one of those things. So yeah, my brother helped me to see that, and then I could able to take it and turn it around for myself. And then I actually had to do sort of purposeful self-talk to myself and to say, genuinely like, okay, Dad, I forgive you. And then turn that on myself to forgive myself for having that resentment for such a long time as well. So it's still, can still catch you with emotions. But again, just really wanting people to realize that, our feelings are very, very valid, and it does take a time to process that, and it's not going to be done, overnight or in a year. It doesn't have to.
Right.
And, yeah, but my experience, it did. But hopefully that what we're sharing, that we found ways to do this, is hopefully helping ease your journey. And if it makes it a shorter one for you, or even just offers you that, be compassionate and then for yourselves, if you can do that. There's no value in beating yourself up or anything like that. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you for Patti for opening up this conversation and allowing us. I think this is kind of like a healing process here, just speaking this out loud and sharing this with you. And I hope that you're all gaining benefit from this as well. So yeah, amazing.
One of the questions that you had put down when we were talking about this particular subject was when people are afraid to forgive, that they will be belittled and their feelings and hurt will come up over and over again. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think being vulnerable is a very, very courageous act. And sometimes we have to be, it's a choice. It's always a choice. You don't have to do this. You do what feels right for you. But, I made the choice, to put myself, as the one that leads. Somebody's got to start. Somebody's got to go first, haven't they? And it takes a lot of courage to actually, open up and, say something. And we literally have no control over the other person at all. We have no control over what they say, what they think, how they act, or anything like that. So you definitely are vulnerable when you're going to do that. And however, I will say that it creates resilience in you if you're able to do that, even if they do belittle you and they do call you names, or they do brush you aside, or make out you're the one that's absolutely wrong. What's happening there is they are a hurt person and they're acting out of that, whereas you've stepped into a higher level of actually deciding, okay, I want this to be different. And you're actually saying, okay, I choose differently. I want to be different. I want to feel lighter. I want to move on from this. I want to grow from this. So yeah, I think that that's an amazing thing if you can do that. And if you can get support around you as well, that once you've taken that action, that just is sort of affirming to you then as well. Because literally it was like Patti was saying, sometimes we can take things personally when what's happening is they have the issue, they're expressing the hurt, so it's not necessarily related to you, and what's being said or pushed aside isn't actually relating to you. It's all kind of like their stuff. So yeah, if you can get to that side of being the bigger person, but again still validating yourself, yeah, that's amazing if you can do that. And then you break in those ancestral ties that Patti said, and you're being the example, and you're also teaching yourself for next time, should something like that happen again, you feel stronger, that resilience. Would you agree with that, Patti? Is there something else you'd like to add in?
Yes, and a couple tips on how to work through your feelings is to journal about it and get out all of the hurt and the emotion and everything like that. And then shred it, burn it, release it, pray about it. Anything that you can do personally to help you release those feelings of resentment and hurt. Talk to somebody, whether it's a coach, a therapist. Get the help that you need in different ways. But just remember, you have control of you. You don't have control of the other person. And just reflect on the good versus the bad. And those are a little bit of tips on how to release some of those emotions. Scream, cry, hurt, but don't take it out on other people. Release it, because it's not good for you and it's not good for anyone that is around you when you're feeling that hurt and resentment. What do you think, Veronica?
Oh, 100%. Those are amazing tips. And I definitely do the journaling, and I definitely do the burning as well. I have my little steel dish that all that stuff goes in. And like Patti said, it's not about taking it out on anybody else and things like that. It's a very personal journey. And often society has said, oh, sort of like, don't cry, or, catch hold of your emotions, or don't be so emotional and things like that. But these are valid emotions that need to be released. And if they're stuck in your head, and you're not releasing them, you're pushing them down into your body, and then your body will start to not work at its optimum, so little things could go wrong with your body if you haven't sorted that out. So this releasing is human stuff. We cry because we're meant to. We've got voices to shout, because not at someone, because we can shout, we can, cry and wail and everything like that, because that is an energy release, and
Yes.
that's meant to happen, and
It's
it
one of the
does make us
biggest.
lighter. 100% agree. So yeah, thanks for sharing those tips there. I think they're very, very valuable. So yeah, I know they'll be helpful for our listeners too. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, so was there anything else that you wanted, or should we talk about, Patti?
I was going to ask you the same thing. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share that we didn't touch on?
I think some of the reasons why, what stops us, that sometimes is a good thing, is what stops us from actually stepping into a place of forgiveness. And one of those things could be the belittling thing. Another thing that I'd kind of like touched on as well is that, we can feel that we are so right and the other person is so wrong, and it's so easy to try and get people on your side, and and agreeing with you. And if the other person has done something terrible, then you could be absolutely right, but then you're not stepping into forgiveness. That's just about one person wronging another one. That's not about forgiveness. Forgiveness is like looking at the bigger picture and having an understanding of humanness, basically, isn't it? It's having an understanding of humanness, and we can all make mistakes. And sometimes the other person doesn't, like Patti was saying, doesn't even realize they're hurting us, because they know no different. So, that could be one of the ways that you're not actually stepping into forgiveness, thinking you're right, and you're sticking to your victim, and, and everything like that. But that's not empowering. You've given your power away then when you stay with the hurt, because you're going to keep going back to that. Whereas with forgiveness, then that allows you to release that and then move on once it's been processed. So what do you think about that, Patti? Is there something you'd like to add in there at all?
No, I think you said that perfectly about, we can put ourselves into the victim mode and not be able to get out of that story in our mind. And that can really cause a lot of damage to you. If you're repeating that story constantly in your head, it builds that resentment. It doesn't push it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So rethinking about the situation in a different way, and not being the victim anymore, and letting go of that story can really help you feel better inside, mentally, emotionally, physically, because you're right. When you're pushing them down everything, your body starts taking that toxicity in, and it will go where the weaknesses are within your body.
Yeah.
And
then you've got then you've got body work to do as well as mind work, and then the forgiveness, you've got all those layers. But
yes.
it's not the end of the world, because there are like coaches and therapists and healing modalities. There's so much out there to help and support you. And I think the value of coaches, I know that is what our jobs and that's what we're doing, but the value that we offer is that listening ear, It's that, not making a judgment, completely understanding and seeing the bigger picture, helping you find your way and untangle the middle, because when there's high emotions, it's really difficult to see the pathway through. So I think, that's where definitely, outside help really, really supports you. And it just improves your life significantly. And as Patti has explained, it has such an impact on other areas of future relationships. It's almost like a blocker in there, isn't it, for expressing your true self, because part of you is stuck somewhere else. And so I think there's a lot to be said for coaching and how that supports, people and people like yourselves that, want to move on with their lives and want to feel more fulfilled and have an inspiring life and all those good stuff that's available to you. And it's a safe place to be. Yeah, absolutely. And both Patti and I have talked today about our experiences, and I think the people who've been through it, that can completely understand you from lots of angles, are the ones that can help you the most. I mean, you can read a book and YouTube things, but there's no level of depth of understanding, inside understanding, that's invaluable, invaluable. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for Veronica, how can people learn more about your coaching?
Brilliant. Thanks for asking. Yeah, so I'm with Uplift Your Life with Veronica is my website, and there's lots of lovely information on there. And you can contact me with my email and that. And I'm also on Facebook under Veronica Roberts. Got a lovely hat on, a great big smile as always, and you can direct message me there. And I do a lovely one-to-one coaching that is absolutely tailored specifically for you, and I cover all details there. And for yourself, Patti, I know you're in there's lots of touch points that you have that people can access and connect with you and hear more about you and work with you. So tell me about those there, Patti.
My website is coachingforinspirationwithpatti.com, and Patti spelled Patti. My Coaching for Inspiration with Patti. I have a Facebook page, a Twitter page, an Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn and YouTube. So you can find me pretty much everywhere. And my website has all my contact information. Veronica and I want to say thank you for watching us today about forgiveness and cultivating compassion. And please share if you know that somebody would benefit from this video. And if you've benefited from this video, please like, share, comment, and let Veronica and I know how we may help you. And if you have any topics that you would like Veronica or I to share, please let us know. We will be happy to talk about that subject. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Bye now. Bye-bye. Thank you.